The salesman didn't bother standing up. He glanced over, took one look at the man who'd just walked through the glass doors, the worn boots, the faded flannel, the John Deere cap, and went right back to his phone. Across the showroom, two other salespeople exchanged a look. One of them smirked. None of them had any idea what was sitting in that man's shirt pocket. His name was Earl Sutton, 71 years old. He'd been farming land in western Kansas since he was 19. The same land his father farmed before him, and his grandfather before that. 3 years ago, a renewable energy company approached him about leasing part of his property for a wind farm. Earl listened carefully, said very little, hired a lawyer, and negotiated for 8 months. When the deal closed, it was the largest land lease agreement in his county's history. Earl didn't change much after that. He still drove the same truck, still wore the same boots, still got up before the sun. But that Tuesday morning he had a reason to be in the city. His granddaughter, Lily, who had just graduated from nursing school at the top of her class, needed a reliable car for her new job at the hospital. Earl wanted to buy it for her. In full, today. He'd folded a certified check into his front pocket before leaving the house. He didn't mention the amount to anyone. He never did. Earl walked the showroom floor slowly. He wasn't browsing. He was looking for something specific. A safe car, good visibility, easy to park near a hospital. He stopped in front of a pearl white sedan and read the window sticker carefully. After 9 minutes, he counted, a salesman finally approached. His name tag said Derek. He wore the kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes. "Help you find something?" Derek said in the tone people use when they mean the opposite. "Yes," Earl said. "I'd like to know more about this one." Derek glanced at the sticker. "That's our top trim. Runs about $47,000 out the door." He paused just long enough to make it uncomfortable. "We've got a nice pre-owned section around the side if you'd prefer." Earl looked at him for a moment. "I'll stay in here, thank you." Derek drifted away. From behind a glass partition, the sales manager, a man named Corey, mid-40s, who prided himself on reading customers in under 30 seconds, watched the exchange and shook his head. He didn't have time for this. He walked out, introduced himself with a handshake that was more performance than greeting, and said, "Sir, I don't want to waste your afternoon. Is there a price range we can work within?" A few salespeople near the coffee station were watching now. Earl reached up and straightened his cap. "What I'd like," he said quietly, "is for someone to answer my questions about the car." Corey smiled with his teeth. "Of course. Derek will be happy to help." He turned and walked back to his office. Behind him, someone near the coffee station laughed, not loudly, but enough. Then a different voice. "Mr. Sutton?" Earl turned. A young man, maybe 24, wearing a slightly too big dress shirt, was approaching. His name tag said Marcus. He was not one of the senior guys. He had the look of someone still learning where to stand. "I overheard you were interested in the Accord. I'd be glad to walk you through it if that's okay." Earl studied him for a second. "You're not going to try to sell me something smaller?" Marcus shook his head. "You said what you wanted. My job is to help you get it." They spent 20 minutes going over every feature. Marcus answered each question directly. When he didn't know something, he said so, and went to find out. Earl asked about cargo space, driver visibility, side impact safety ratings. Marcus answered all of it. At the end, Earl nodded once. "This is the one." "Would you like to talk financing?" Marcus asked. "No," Earl said. "I'll need to speak with whoever closes a cash transaction." Something in Marcus's expression shifted, not suspicion, just a quiet recalibration. "Of course. Let me get the manager." Earl reached into his shirt pocket. Corey came out of his office a second time, expecting to discuss a payment plan. Earl set a folded document on the hood of the white sedan. Corey picked it up. "Read it. Read it again." It was a certified bank check made out to the dealership. The amount was enough to purchase the car Lily wanted, a second vehicle for Earl's eldest son, and a third for his daughter-in-law, who'd been driving something with a cracked windshield for 2 years, and still leave money on the table. The showroom went quiet in the particular way that rooms go. Quiet when something has shifted, and nobody is quite sure what to do next. Earl looked at Corey without anger, without satisfaction even, just clearly. "I'd like to buy 3 cars today," he said, "and I'd like Marcus to handle all 3 transactions." Corey opened his mouth, closed it, nodded. Derek, standing near the window with his phone still in his hand, had stopped pretending to look at something else. The paperwork took 2 hours. Marcus sat across from Earl at a small desk near the back of the showroom, going through each from carefully, explaining every line. At one point, Earl told him about Lily, about the night she called home after her first clinical rotation and cried because she wasn't sure she was strong enough for the work. about how she went back the next morning anyway. Marcus listened the way people listen when they're actually listening. When it was done, Earl signed the last form, capped his pen, and stood. "You've got good instincts," Earl said. "Don't let this place talk you out of them." Marcus walked him to the door. From across the showroom, Corey watched. He didn't say anything. There wasn't anything to say. The commission Marcus earned that afternoon was more than his previous 3 months combined. Earl drove home the same way he came, through flat country, past fields he knew by name. He called Lily from the road and told her there was a surprise waiting at his place Sunday. She asked what kind. He said the kind with 4 wheels and a full tank of gas. She laughed. And for a moment she sounded exactly like she did at 7 years old, when she used to ride with him to check the fences. He didn't tell anyone about what happened at the dealership. It wasn't a story he needed to tell. He'd gone in for a reason, he'd done what he set out to do, and he'd driven home. That was enough for Earl. The people who laughed that morning, they'd carry that moment differently. Maybe for a long time, maybe not. That part wasn't up to Earl. What he knew, and what he'd always known, was this: a man who has to announce his worth usually doesn't have much, and a man who doesn't usually has more than you'd ever guess. Earl never told that story, but Marcus did, to every new salesperson he ever trained. Not as a lesson about money, as a lesson about who deserves your respect before you know what they're worth. If that one stayed with you, the next story might too. A retired school teacher, a hospital waiting room, and a small act of kindness that came back to her in a way she never expected. That one's right after this.